Weyland-Yutani. The xenomorph gets all the screaming, but the thing that actually doomed the crew of the Nostromo was a line of fine print back on Earth. In Ridley Scott's Alien, released in 1979, the commercial towing ship Nostromo belongs to the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, a company so faceless the crew simply call it the Company. When the ship picks up a distress signal from a barren moon, they are woken from hypersleep and sent down to investigate. And what they don't know is that the detour isn't an accident. The company wanted them there because it wanted the thing waiting on that moon brought home. The science officer, Ash, is the key. He isn't a nervous colleague, he's a Hyperdyne Systems android planted aboard to make sure the mission succeeds, no matter who dies for it. When Ripley digs into the ship's computer, the one they nickname Mother, she finds his real orders, a classified directive called Special Order 937. The wording is chilling in its bluntness. Priority 1. Ensure return of organism for analysis. All other considerations secondary. Crew expendable. Those last two words are the whole movie. The company always intended to trade its entire crew for a specimen it could turn into a weapon. When Ripley moves to abort, Ash tries to kill her to protect the creature, and the struggle exposes him as synthetic. The alien is the thing hunting them in the dark, but every fatal decision, the detour, the broken quarantine, the sabotage, traces straight back to an order the crew was never allowed to read. Weyland-Yutani didn't just fail to protect its people. It filed them under acceptable losses before they ever left home. Omni Consumer Products. Detroit didn't get a robotic cop because crime was out of control. It got one because a corporation wanted to own the police outright. In Paul Verhoeven's RoboCop, from 1987, the city has handed its entire police department to a megacorporation called Omni Consumer Products, or OCP. Running the police is just the opening move. What OCP really wants is Delta City, a plan to bulldoze old Detroit and rebuild it as a private metropolis where your rights as a citizen are measured in shares of company stock. To sell the city on automated law enforcement, Senior Executive Dick Jones demonstrates an enforcement droid called ED-209 in a boardroom, and it malfunctions and empties its guns into a junior employee. OCP treats the killing as a product setback, not a murder. Then there's Officer Alex Murphy, deliberately transferred to the deadliest precinct in the city, gunned down, and rebuilt without his consent as RoboCop. On paper, he isn't a man anymore. He's OCP property, a product with a serial number. Worse, Dick Jones is secretly partnered with the crime lord Clarence Boddicker, so the company profits from the very crime wave it's selling the city a cure for. OCP is the corporation as government, turning a murdered officer into intellectual property and calling it progress. The air monopoly. Picture a company so complete in its control that it owns the air you breathe and shuts it off the moment you step out of line. That's the Mars of Total Recall, Paul Verhoeven's 1990 film set in the year 2084. The colony answers to an administrator named Cohagen, whose mining operation pulls a priceless ore called turbinium out of the planet, and whose grip on the oxygen supply is just as tight. When the rebel district of Venusville pushes back, Cohagen doesn't send in troops. He cuts off their air and lets them suffocate. The cruelest part is that he's hiding an ancient alien reactor that could give the whole planet a free, breathable atmosphere, because free air would end his monopoly. He would rather watch a world choke than lose the one thing he sells it. By the way, if you're enjoying this so far, I put out sci-fi videos like this all the time, and a subscribe would genuinely help the channel. Thanks. Lunar Industries. The loneliest job in the solar system hides a secret so cheap and so cruel that it makes the isolation look merciful by comparison. Moon, the 2009 debut of director Duncan Jones, drops us on the far side of the moon with a single worker, Sam Bell, running a mining base called Serang for a company called Lunar Industries. After an energy crisis back on Earth, Lunar struck it rich harvesting helium-3, an alternative fuel, and Sam is the lone human keeping the operation going through a 3-year contract. He's only weeks from going home when an accident out on the surface leads him to a crashed rover, and inside it, he finds another Sam Bell. Same face, same memories, same everything. The station's soft-spoken artificial intelligence, Gertie, confirms what both men slowly realize. They're clones. Lunar Industries keeps a hidden stockpile of Sam Bell copies, thawing one at a time to run the base, because growing a disposable worker is cheaper than training and shipping a new astronaut every few years. Each clone is told the same comforting story, that after 3 years, he'll be put into hibernation and sent home to his family. It's a lie. When the contract ends, the clone isn't frozen for the trip home. He's incinerated, and a fresh copy wakes up believing he just arrived. The company even jams the communication feed so no clone can ever call Earth and learn the truth. There's no monster on Serang, no creature in the vents, just an accountant's decision that a human life is cheaper to duplicate and burn than to bring home. The monster is a spreadsheet. The Tyrell Corporation. This company built a slave race smart enough to know it was enslaved, then set a 4-year timer so the merchandise could never complain for long. In Ridley Scott's Blade Runner from 1982, the Tyrell Corporation manufactures artificial people called replicants, and its flagship model, the Nexus 6, is engineered to be, in the company's own words, more human than human. They're built as disposable labor for the off-world colonies. To keep that from becoming a problem, Tyrell's engineers give the Nexus 6 a built-in 4-year lifespan, a kill switch, because they're afraid the replicants will develop real emotions and turn on their makers. When a group of them, led by Roy Batty, escapes and comes to Earth searching for a way to live longer, they aren't trying to conquer anything. They just want more time. Eldon Tyrell meets his own creation face to face and coldly tells him the clock can't be reversed. And so the replicants are hunted down and retired, the company's polite word for killed, for the crime of not wanting to die on schedule. The film hands its sympathy to the so-called monsters, and in doing so, it points the finger squarely at the corporation that made them and threw them away. By and large, the reason Earth is a lifeless trash heap isn't a war or an asteroid. It's a single retail company that sold the planet to death. In Pixar's WALL-E from 2008, a mega corporation called By and Large, or BNL, grew so dominant it ran essentially everything, and it buried the whole planet under mountains of consumer garbage. When Earth became unlivable, BNL loaded humanity onto luxury starliners like the Axiom, promising a temporary cruise while robots tidied up. Then, its chief executive quietly declared the cleanup a failure and issued a secret directive, A-113, ordering the ships never to come home. Generations later, the humans aboard are soft, screen-addicted, and fully dependent on the same corporation that poisoned their world. By and large is consumerism weaponized, and it made a fortune selling the escape pods. InGen Security. The dinosaurs were supposed to be a theme park attraction, right up until the company decided a living weapon would sell better. Jurassic World, Colin Trevorrow's 2015 blockbuster, takes place at a fully operational dinosaur park run by a corporation called Masrani Global, with the genetic engineering handled by its subsidiary, InGen. The head of InGen Security Division, a man named Vic Hoskins, has spent years lobbying to weaponize the park's trained velociraptors, arguing that a living animal can't be hacked the way a drone can. And the park's newest headline attraction, a hybrid called the Indominus Rex, is far more than a crowd pleaser. It was secretly engineered by the company's geneticist, Dr. Henry Wu, as a prototype military asset, designed for stealth, thermal camouflage, and durability, a battlefield predator wearing a theme park name tag. Hoskins quietly steered the company into building it, betting that a scaled-down version could be sold to the armed forces. So, when the Indominus inevitably breaks loose, Hoskins doesn't panic. He sees his opening and orders a live field test of the raptors as soldiers. The dinosaurs are the spectacle, but every cage that fails traces back to a corporation trying to turn its cloned animals into an arms deal. The Armadyne Corporation. In a future split between a gleaming orbital paradise and a ruined Earth below, the company that built the paradise treats the people underneath as disposable machinery. In Neil Blomkamp's Elysium from 2013, Armadyne designed and built the luxury space station Elysium, where the wealthy own medical pods that cure any illness in seconds. Down on the poisoned surface, Armadyne runs the factories, and its chief executive, John Carlyle, thinks so little of his workers that when one of them, a man named Max, takes a lethal dose of radiation on the line, Carlyle cares more about the schedule than the dying man inside it. Carlyle even agrees to store a coup-enabling program inside his own brain, turning the company into the hinge of a plot to seize the station. Armadyne built the wall between the haves and the have-nots, then poisoned everyone it kept on the wrong side of it. Multinational United. When aliens land not as invaders but as refugees, the real predators turn out to be the weapons company hired to manage them. In Neil Blomkamp's District 9 from 2009, an alien ship stalls over Johannesburg, carrying more than 1 million starving refugees, and the government contracts a corporation called Multinational United, or MNU, to relocate them into a walled camp. On the surface, MNU is running a humanitarian operation. Underneath, it's the second largest weapons manufacturer on the planet, and what it actually wants is the aliens' biotechnology, a cache of devastating guns that no human can fire. The weapons are locked to alien DNA, and that single obstacle drives a secret program of lethal experiments on alien prisoners inside MNU labs. When a company bureaucrat named Vickers van der Merwe is accidentally exposed to alien fluid and starts to mutate, the company's interest turns clinical fast. The moment his changing body lets him fire the alien weapons, MNU orders him cut open for parts, and the executive who signs that order is Vickers' own father-in-law. The company sells itself as a public service while running what amounts to a weapons research slaughterhouse. Innovative online industries. What happens when the company that runs your escape from reality decides to own reality too, players and all? In Steven Spielberg's Ready Player One from 2018, most of humanity lives inside a vast virtual world called the Oasis, and a conglomerate named Innovative Online Industries, or IOI, is desperate to seize control of it. Its head of operations, Nolan Sorrento, wants the hidden prize buried in the Oasis that grants total ownership, so it can monetize every inch of the one place people still enjoy. To win, IOI fields an army of numbered drones called Sixers and runs so-called loyalty centers, which are really debtors' prisons where anyone who owes the company works off the debt as an indentured laborer. IOI is the platform monopoly taken to its endpoint, a business that turned debt into slavery and wanted to charge admission to the last good thing left, Merrick Biotech. The clients think they bought a life insurance policy. What they actually bought is a living person, kept in a cage until their organs are needed. In Michael Bay's The Island from 2005, a company called Merrick Biotech secretly grows full-grown human clones for wealthy customers. The clones live inside a sealed compound, told that the outside world has been contaminated and that the only safe place left is a paradise called the Island. Every so often, a lottery selects one lucky resident to go there. It's a lie. Winning the lottery means being wheeled away for organ harvesting or forced to carry a sponsor's pregnancy to term. Dr. Merrick sells these clones, which the company calls agnates, to clients as insurance policies, assuring buyers that they're kept in a permanent vegetative state. Except the company learned early on that the organs only stay viable if the clone is conscious, so it grew fully conscious people and hid that to keep the product selling. When two of them, Lincoln 6 Echo and Jordan 2 Delta, start asking questions and escape, the whole operation is finally exposed. Merrick Biotech is corporate cost-cutting taken to its darkest possible end, a company selling the fantasy of a painless spare parts supply while knowingly imprisoning real people. The Soylent Corporation. The most famous 4 words in dystopian science fiction aren't a warning about aliens or robots. They're the answer to what a food company has been feeding everyone. Soylent Green, directed by Richard Fleischer in 1973, is set in a New York City of the year 2022, a sweltering, overcrowded ruin where more than 40 million people are crammed together under a permanent greenhouse heat. Real food is a memory. Almost no one can afford an actual vegetable, so the population survives on processed wafers made by the all-powerful Soylent Corporation, Soylent Red, Soylent Yellow, and the newest, most nutritious variety, Soylent Green, advertised as being made from ocean plankton. Detective Frank Thorne, played by Charlton Heston, is assigned to the murder of a Soylent board member, and the deeper he digs, the more it looks like the company had the man killed to bury something. His elderly friend and researcher, Saul Roth, played by Edward G. Robinson in his final film role, quietly works out the horrible math. The oceans are dying. There is no plankton left. Whatever Soylent Green is made from, it isn't the sea. Unable to live with what he's uncovered, Saul chooses assisted death at a euthanasia clinic, and Thorne, following his friend's body, tracks the corpses from the clinic to a Soylent processing plant. Wounded and carried out on a stretcher, Thorne finally screams the truth. Soylent Green is people. The company solved a global food shortage by recycling the dead into wafers and selling them back to the living as a nutritional breakthrough. More than 50 years later, that line still lands like a hammer, which is exactly why it's the last stop on this list. If this was your kind of video, think about subscribing so you don't miss the next trip into science fiction's darkest corners. Thanks for watching.